Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome to Durrett's Take. Let's get started with an interesting fact of the day. Paul George and Zubac last night combined for 31 rebounds. And you wonder why the Suns lost last night. That's one reason right there. You cannot allow them to combine for 31 rebounds. So there's a lot I want to talk about today. But let's get started with both series so far. So a lot of people are quick to overreact. We've all done it. Let's start off with the Hawks upset against the Bucks in Game 1 the other day. So there are going to be some fans, especially Hawks fans, but some NBA fans in general, that are like, "Did you see the Hawks upset Trey? Well, it was phenomenal. That they're going to go to the finals." Hold your horses there. First of all, the Hawks are a good road team this postseason. That's not undeniable. So if you're thinking that the Hawks weren't going to win at least one road game, even though Milwaukee's been undefeated in the postseason at home until this point, if you didn't think the Hawks were going to win at least one game on the road, that would have been a little naive of you. Second, Chris Middleton has been on fire, especially to end that last series, but he stunk last night. Do you really think he's going to shoot 0 from 9 for three-point land? Again, especially at home. Do you think he's going to do that again? Maybe on the road one day, but at home, I don't think he's going to do that ever again. So I expect a bounce-back performance from him. Third, do you think that Trae Young will score 48 points again in the conference finals? Doubt it. Now, he may average 30 points most nights, but he's not going to be like KD, especially, and get average near 45 points a game. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be like that. I expect better defensive adjustments. Whether it's Drew Holiday just guarding better, whether they put PJ Tucker on him, they'll figure out something. So as of right now, let's just hold off on the Hawks going to the finals banter. Let's just hold off on that. The Bucks are still the better team here, so I expect them to overcome this. Now for the Suns and Clippers. Because the Clippers won Game 3, people are now going to say, it's going to happen again. They're coming back from an 0-2 deficit. Here we go. Again, hold your horses here. For one, the Clippers were supposed to win that game despite CP3 coming back. It's a home game, and you can't go down 0-3 if you want to win the series, so it was expected them to come out and try to win that game. Second, CP3 was clearly rusty. He shot 20% from the field in the first half, 0% from 3 in the first half. And then obviously the overall performance in general. He did get a lot of assists, but other than that, it's he wasn't that good. I don't expect him to be that bad ever again. Now, maybe Game 4, it'll go for 50% to 70%, and then by Game 5 it'll be near 100%. As far as shaking off the rust and all that. But I don't expect it to be that bad again. And then also Booker, shot horrible as well. So because he had a broken nose, I'm not sure if that mask or everything's affecting him or not. But I expect him over the next week to get better and shake off a little bit of rust that he has right now. Fourth, their energizer backup point guard, Campaign has been performing well. He got injured and didn't come back, so obviously that's a big loss. Another thing, Crowder and Booker both got in foul trouble in the third quarter, so they're both ineffective. Now, foul trouble is kind of hard to predict, but I don't expect both Crowder and Booker to be in foul trouble at the same time, again throughout the series. So therefore, the Clippers won't have that advantage anymore. Of course, the Clippers dribbled a big lead because of those foul troubles. It makes sense why the Clippers won last night. Now, I expect the Clippers to win Game 4 as well. But as far as proclaiming they're going to now make the comeback and win the series, again, too early for that. CP3 will steer the ship in the right direction here. So the Mavs are going to hire Jason Kidd, as I thought they potentially would. He and Jamal Mosley were the top two, and I was right on that regard. Now, some people have concerns about Kidd's off-the-court past. While I admit I don't like that about him, I'm not going to focus on that because off-the-court issues is kind of none of my business. The other big complaint people have about Jason Kidd is he got fired twice. He's not a good coach. Yeah, he had to coach Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry all out of their primes and all old without a bench, because they had to make a bunch of trades and give up draft picks and all that. So not a deep team at all. So we got a big three that's all out of their primes and no bench. Yeah, it makes sense why you can't win a championship there. When that was the expectation was to win a championship there. That was wrong expectations there. Then you got a baby Giannis. When players like Thonmaker and Jabari Parker and Eric Bledsoe had to carry the load as the rotation players, of course the Bucks were going to get far out of the playoffs with that type of roster, and a baby Giannis. That's expected. By the way, who's been fired twice and then won a championship as a head coach on his third go around, Oh, only the man Jason Kidd's been around the past couple years. Frank Vogel. Now, he had LeBron and AD, and you should win a chip with a healthy LeBron AD. But they still had to get it done. The Clippers didn't last season with Kawhi and Paul George. And while the Lakers were like the Clippers, they didn't like the bubble either, but at least they handled their business and got it done. Also, before the Lakers, before Vogel got to the Lakers, defense is kind of optional, but ever since he got there, both years top 5 defense. And besides AD, it's not like they had a lot of good defensive players. It's good team effort, good team. He's already made his imprint, on the roster. And I expect Frank Vogel to not be done potentially win championships. So if it can work for Frank Vogel and it work for Jason, and there's been plenty of coaches who've been fired once and then wanted to take a spot. Like for example, Doc Rivers fired Orlando, wanted Boston. Even former Mavs coach Rick Carlisle let go of Indiana, won a championship at Dallas. So there's plenty of different examples of it's all about being the right fit and overcoming, the past failures to kind of learn from that to become a good coach. And also a great example in the NFL, is Andy Reid. He failed once at Philly, won one in Kansas City because he got some talent in Patrick Mahomes, and the fact that players want to play for him. He's a players coach, which also I'm going to get to that in a little bit by Jason Kidd, is that he's a players coach. There's a reason why a lot of players like him. For example, Giannis loved him. Giannis didn't want Kidd to be fired. He wanted him to stay around. Damian Lillard sues Terry Stotts fired. I want Jason Kidd. Also, LeBron over the past couple of years, he's been following Jason Kidd. He's loved Jason Kidd as an assistant coach and all that. So I feel like Luka should be able to get along with any other players for the matter should be able to get along with him. And because he's such a players coach, a lot of players like him. That's also the advantage for the Mavs because then they can try to acquire top big free agents in the offseason because for some reason they have struggles doing that. But now with Jason Kidd, they could potentially do that. Now the big question is, can Jason Kidd and Luka relationship work? I think so. I know Luka's close with Mosley, but I feel since, like I said earlier, Kidd's beloved by a lot of players and coaches, and he's not an old person. He's a young coach, not an older person, like Rick Carlisle. He might actually get more respect type of thing. And remember this: who do we compare Luka to? LeBron. So Kidd being with LeBron for the past couple of seasons, so working with him can now take what he learned there and implement it on Luka, who has the very similar skill traits as LeBron, make Luka even that much better. And then also, he can still defensive, tricks, from Frank Vogel, which the Mavs desperately need. And remember, player development is the biggest thing with Jason Kidd. And while Jalen Brunson and Dorian Finney-Smith had developed into nice players, they can definitely use more player development with the Mavs organization. So I like that hire. And then, by the way, I also like the GM hire assistant GM hire for the Nike executive guy. I like that. Apparently, he was sought after by a lot of teams, so it's good the Mavs got him there. Now, getting back on track, remember this. If the Mavs don't get Luka help, and they don't find a clear number 2 for him, then this coaching hire is all irrelevant. Good job for finding your new GM and coach pretty quickly, but now the clock is ticking on making a move. Cuban, go do it. Now let's talk about the Rick Carlisle hire for Indiana real quick. He coached there before and has a close relationship with the owner, so the hire makes sense. But now the question is it the best hire? with Rick with Rick Carlisle being there in the roster as it currently constructed, I expect the Indiana Pacers to get back to the playoffs with them, especially T.J. Warren coming back. Have to be out last year, and if you make a good draft pick this year, since you're in the lottery, which you usually are not in a lottery, then if you find a good player there, and then bam, you got even more better. But the question is, are they a championship contender? That is what I don't see with the Indiana Pacers. I can think of multiple teams I would pick just in the East over Indiana. So this is the classic definition here of a safe hire. You're going to be playoff relevant with Rick Carlisle, but as far as getting over that hump to a championship, you're not going to get there with Rick Carlisle, in my opinion. Now, I know they wanted an experienced head coach with championship experience, so they got what they wanted here. We'll see if I'm proven wrong about this hire. Now, by the way, before I sign off, just let you know, even though I picked Mosley, to get the Mavs coaching hire, I said it wouldn't surprise me, shock me, and I thought that Jason Kidd had a really good shot to get hired. Sure enough, he did. And then I also thought that Ime Udoka, the Brooklyn assistant, would get hired for the Boston Celtics. I was spot on with that hire. And then I predicted, Terry Stotts would get the Indiana job, but that was only because in the initial round of interviews, as far as publicly known, Rick Carlisle wasn't in that at that time. So otherwise, before I found out who was publicly interviewed, I actually had predicted Rick Carlisle would get the job there, but because of that, that's why I changed it to Terry Stotts. So I'm pretty good on these coaching hires so far, so we'll see how I continue to do on that. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel to learn about me. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.